Welcome. It's a new day. Please don't ruin it. In this video, I'm talking specifically to anyone who has Akebono brakes for their Nissan or Infiniti vehicle. So, 370Z, G35, G37, Q50, Q60, and other Nissan Infiniti vehicles that may have this exact brake setup. This video is for you. So, let's get right into it. Story time. So, as you know, I have a 2018 Q50 Lux. So, the Infiniti Q50 Lux originally does not come with big brakes. It only comes with the factory Akebono 2-piston front calipers and 1-piston rear calipers. This is the setup where the pistons are only on one side of the caliper rather than both sides, like what you get with like the sport brake system. So, needless to say, I upgraded my brake system maybe after a year of ownership, and once I upgraded my brake system to the Akebonos, I realized I needed something. But I didn't realize I needed it until after the install. So I did it install, upgraded it, and immediately after the upgrade, I noticed my brakes were squeaking. They're squeaking loudly, extremely loudly. And it would come to the point where in the mornings, you know, it wasn't like a little screech that you would get from like moisture. It was like a loud squeak. And it was evident that the squeak was not just moisture, but it was something else like NVHs, you know, noise, vibrations, harshness, the stuff that goes through the brakes, you know, when you press on the pedal. So, needless to say, I did some research, and I thought it was the pads at first. So, I originally started with Hawk pads, the Hawk 5.0, the newest 5.0 pads that you can get. So I went with those originally. Those were squeaking really bad, and I thought the pads were bad. Well, not bad, but I thought the pads were really, really noisy because I noticed that on the forums and online that people were complaining about Hawk pads being really noisy. So I went ahead and took those out. And also, I just want to go ahead and throw out that Hawk pads are noisy. Even when they would warm up and the squeaking would go away, you will hear a grinding sound like they're eating away at your rotors. So I don't really recommend Hawk pads, you know, for a daily driven car that you plan to get you to work and home, you know, something that you depend on daily. I wouldn't use Hawk pads because they're going to eat away at the expensive rotors that you have on your car, especially when you upgrade to like the sport brakes. So moving on, I switched to some, what were they? AutoZone brake pads. So I swapped to AutoZone brake pads, and the AutoZone brake pads were known for being really, really quiet. So I put those on my car, and the noise got worse. It got worse. I couldn't believe it. It got worse. And not only did it get worse on cold mornings, but it would get worse when I would aggressively stop the car and press on a pedal, you know, really hard to stop the car because I'm going, you know, a fast speed. So once I did that, I was really annoyed at that point because brakes are not cheap for a sport package car. Like, the Hawk pads are already $100, and then I went to the doggone AutoZone pads, and those were another $100. So at this point, I'm like, man, these AutoZone pads are trash. Why are they worse? So my dumb self thought the pads were the issue once again. So this time, I went to the actual Akebono manufacturer and ordered performance pads from Akebono themselves. Now, Once I put them on, they did get quieter, honestly. So they must work the best, honestly, because even though it didn't fix the problem, they were the quietest. And they wouldn't make noise in aggressive braking, but they still would make noise in the cold mornings. So after, getting my third set of brake pads, I started to think rotors. But I started to get a little smart because these rotors that I have in my car are really expensive. These rotors I got from Z1 when I upgraded my entire system with the rotors and everything. I got these rotors from Z1, and these are the slotted and drilled rotors I got from Z1. And if you buy them by themselves, you're probably gonna spend like, I think $300, almost $400 just for the fronts. And I got all four. So I did not want to get rotors this soon, especially brand new rotors like the ones I have. And neither did I want to eat them up with some really aggressive brake pads. But I did want pads that was better for heat, because I am going to take my car to the drag strip, and just see what it has. I'm not going to beat on it. I'm just going to see what it has, see what it can do. So after that, I did more research and realized that brake shims, the shims that go in the back of the brake pads, not only needs lubrication, but needs lubrication at specific locations on these brake systems. So, good thing I have the manual, the technical manual, where I can do actual repairs on my brakes, and it pretty much broke down the locations of lube, of where I need it, and a type of lube in different areas. Just for G-Wiz information, just know that when you have the sport brakes, it takes two type of lubes. There's a silicone-based lube, and there's also a copper-based lube. The copper-based lube obviously goes on locations so it doesn't stick, and the silicone goes on locations so that you don't get noises, which is the brake shims. So, and I realized the reason why the brake pads were so much quieter on the Akebono versus the Hawk pads or the AutoZone pads is because I looked at the actual shims, and the shims were a better quality, but it didn't fix the problem. And I lubed them up a little bit better. It quieted them down a little bit more, but it still didn't fix the problem. So after doing research for like 3 days, not continuous, it was just on free time in these 3 to 4 days, I realized, okay, the OEM shims do look different. The OE shims is a multi-piece shim setup that goes on the Akebonos, and it goes on the sport and the non-sport brake calipers, because my non-sport brake calipers I have at home, I actually went to check, and those are multi-piece as well. So I went ahead and ordered multi-piece OEM shims, and a few days later they got here. I put the proper lubrication on the shims, and I installed these shims onto my brakes. And I did not change the brake pads. All I did was change the shim. So I changed the Akebono shims from the Akebono to the OEM shims that goes onto the Infinities and then 370s. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think those are the only ones that really come with this 4-piston front, 2-piston rear setup. And I realized that these Akebonos, they're really aggressive. Like, if you don't put the proper shims on them, they will make noise. And I noticed that the hard way, spending extra money that I didn't have to. And once I put the OEM shims on, guess what? Problem solved. Like, all sound have went away. Even the super cold mornings that we get cold, damp mornings here, and it'll get like 29 degrees in the morning, and it'll have moisture in the air, and I will still have zero noise backing out of my parking space and start heading to work. So once that happened, I realized OEM shims is a must for the Akebono sport brakes, and I'm pretty sure they're a must for the Akebono non-sport brakes as well. But no one upgrades to non-sport; they upgrade to sport, right? So after upgrading, that's what I realized. And so this video is to tell any of you guys who have base model anything, base model 370, base model Q50, base model G37. You're not gonna have the sport brakes. And when you upgrade, or if you upgrade, remember, spend the extra money to buy to OEM shims, because the OEM shims are going to fix the noise. They're going to fix the noise. I guarantee it. And if they do not fix the noise, then you obviously got something else wrong with your brake system. Like mine were brand new, and I'm a mechanic. I know what I'm doing when I install my brakes or anything on my car. So after the shims, I realized, oh wow, okay, there we go. And and I just wasn't thinking honestly from the beginning. I'm a diesel mechanic, heavy truck mechanic. Heavy trucks don't use what cars use. So my first thought wasn't shims. I was thinking of actual like contacts, like pads, rotors. I wasn't thinking the shims, because that's not something you think about with the big trucks. They're going to be noisy regardless, because it's a lot of moving parts in an air brake system. But in these passenger cars with the regular hydraulic brakes, that's how they keep the noise pretty much quiet by the shims. And I knew it, but I just didn't think about it. So don't make my mistake and just start ordering a bunch of things, ordering a bunch of different brake parts, wasting your money when that money could be used elsewhere. And I know my money could have been used elsewhere. Because of these brake noise, I still don't have a spoiler on my car. Even though that was like a plan. The plan was to get a spoiler. But I wanted to get rid of this noise because I hate brake noise. I hate it. It's so annoying. I drive a luxury car. This is an Infiniti. Like, it may not be the most luxurious vehicle out there, but it's still a luxury car. It's the luxury brand of Nissan. And what I expect from the luxury brand of Nissan is to give me a quiet car. If it's loud, it's because I chose to make it loud, like my exhaust. My tires are actually quieter than the stock tires. Go figure, right? So this wasn't just a video of just showing you things, but this was an informational video to share with you my experience and why you need the shims, the OEM shims for the Akebono sport brake calipers, or should I say sport brake setup. And when I say sport brake, I mean 4 pistons in the front, 2 pistons in the back. Okay? So if you have any questions, feel free, leave a comment. And don't forget, you have one life. So go out there and live it. Peace.